Welcome, dear subscribers and curious listeners of my channel. Harry Potter fans can't resist the temptation to reread the books and rewatch the movies, discussing them down to the smallest details. Some theories seem quite reasonable, but there are others that are rather strange. Today, I invite you to explore some of these peculiar theories. Enjoy watching. Number 1. Snape, a vampire, Severus. Snape always appeared somewhat mysterious, and his behavior often puzzled fans. Some fans claim that Snape might be a vampire. In the books, he is frequently described as someone who, quote, and while this could just be a literary device, some believe it is a hidden clue from J.K. Rowling. The theory may seem odd, but there's an interesting detail. When Snape assigned homework on werewolves, Professor Lupin responded with a task on vampires. Could this be more than a coincidence? Number 2. Ron, a seer. There's a theory that Ron Weasley possesses an incredible gift for predicting the future. He made several prophecies that came true over time, such as Harry unexpectedly getting lucky or that Tom Riddle dealt with poor Myrtle. Ron's astonishing chess skills also support this theory. He seems to anticipate his opponent's moves, making him a true seer. Number 3. Chocolate frog cards were Dumbledore spies. Dumbledore often demonstrated an incredible knowledge of events that theoretically he shouldn't have been aware of. One theory suggests that the chocolate frog cards were part of his secret network of informants. Almost all wizards collected these cards, and perhaps they served as a channel for him to gather information. This would explain Dumbledore's remarkable insight. Number 4. Hogwarts professors bet on Quidditch. The theory that Hogwarts professors secretly bet on the outcomes of Quidditch matches might seem absurd, but if we look at their behavior, it seems quite plausible. The professors did everything they could to ensure their house's victory. They reserved the best fields and made sure the students had the best brooms. Maybe this all had something to do with their competitive nature. Number 5. Mrs. Norris and Animagus in love with Filch. Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, hides many secrets. Some fans believe that she isn't just an ordinary cat, but an animagus who turns into an animal to escape from a harsh life. Dumbledore supposedly gave her shelter, and she remains in her cat form, hiding from everyone except Filch. This theory explains her unusual attachment to him. Number 6. Crookshanks, the Potter family cat. Another strange rumor is the theory that Hermione's cat, Crookshanks, was actually a pet of the Potter family. This seems unbelievable, but there are a few reasons for this theory. Crookshanks was an old cat. The Potters had a cat. And at one point, Crookshanks strangely chased Peter Pettigrew, a known enemy of the Potters. Number 7. Luna Lovegood. Knew some magical creatures were fake. Luna Lovegood was known for her eccentric views and theories about non-existent creatures. One theory suggests that she deliberately created these beings to establish a special connection with her father. Perhaps she knew that Nargles and other creatures didn't exist, but continued to believe in them to play along with her father, who was also a bit eccentric. Number 8. Hagrid was banned from magic by mistake. Rubeus Hagrid is well known as the lovable half-giant who was expelled from Hogwarts and forbidden from using magic. However, there's an intriguing fan theory that suggests Hagrid was wrongly punished for a crime he didn't commit. The theory claims that the true culprit in the Chamber of Secrets incident was Tom Riddle, not Hagrid, and the Ministry of Magic decided to quickly close the case by blaming the most convenient target. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, We learn that Hagrid was accused of opening the Chamber of Secrets as a student, leading to his expulsion and the lifelong ban on using magic. Yet the Ministry never truly investigated, opting instead to silence Hagrid with a punishment that wasn't his due. This theory gains some weight when considering the unwavering trust Dumbledore had in Hagrid, even after his expulsion. In the Philosopher's Stone, Dumbledore tells Harry Hagrid's a good man, and his decision to allow Hagrid to continue using magic, albeit secretly, could suggest that Dumbledore believed Hagrid is innocence from the start. Perhaps the Ministry simply forgot to lift the ban after they wrongfully punished him, and Dumbledore's leniency was his way of correcting a great injustice. The idea that Hagrid was a victim of the Ministry's haste adds a tragic element to his character and explains why he was always so loyal to Dumbledore. He had been given a second chance, a rare act of faith in a world quick to judge. Number 9. Argus Filch is a wizard who lost his memory. Argus Filch, the cantankerous and bitter caretaker of Hogwarts, has always been an enigmatic character in the Harry Potter series. Known for his disdain toward the students and his obsession with catching them breaking the rules, Filch's lack of magical ability stands out in a world where magic is everything. But one peculiar fan theory offers a dark explanation. Filch could have once been a talented wizard who lost his magical powers due to a tragic accident. The theory suggests that Filch's bitterness comes from the fact that he was once a wizard, but a magical mishap, perhaps a poorly cast spell or a failed potion, stripped him of his abilities. Quote 4. Filch admits in The Order of the Phoenix, confirming his inability to perform magic. The theory goes further, claiming that he remembers fragments of his past life as a wizard, but these memories are jumbled and incomplete, leaving him angry and resentful. This theory would explain why Filch harbors such a deep-seated jealousy and hatred for the students who possess what he once had, magic. His obsession with enforcing rules may stem from a desire to regain control over the world that now eludes him. Filch's relationship with students, especially Harry and his friends, is colored by this underlying frustration. He takes pleasure in punishing those who break the rules, perhaps because he can no longer perform the magic that they wield so effortlessly. In the Chamber of Secrets, when Filch discovers the students' messes and plots, his anger is palpable. "I'm going to make sure you all get expelled," he threatens, lashing out at the very students who remind him of his lost abilities. The theory that Filch was once a wizard who lost his powers adds a tragic layer to his character, transforming him from a mere comic figure into a deeply resentful person, struggling with the loss of his former self. Number 10. Dobby was a secret Malfoy agent. Dobby, the house elf, is one of the most beloved characters in the Harry Potter series, known for his loyalty, courage, and eventual freedom. However, there is a chilling theory that suggests Dobby's role was not as straightforward as it seemed. Some fans believe that Dobby was originally sent to Harry Potter by the Malfoy family to carry out a secret mission. According to this theory, Lucius Malfoy intentionally used Dobby to indirectly harm Harry, sending him to cause trouble at the Burrow and to stop Harry from learning critical information. The theory suggests that Dobby was a spy, loyal to the Malfoys and acting under their orders. In the Chamber of Secrets, Dobby's interference in Harry's life seems suspicious. He warns Harry to stay away from Hogwarts, even going so far as to sabotage the car ride with the Weasleys. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened again, Enemies of the air, beware, he warns cryptically. Could Dobby have been following a darker plan, one designed by Lucius Malfoy to undermine Harry? The theory implies that Dobby's actions were meant to harm Harry. Chances at defeating the Dark Lord. However, the theory falters when we consider Dobby's eventual betrayal of the Malfoys. After receiving his freedom, Dobby's genuine affection for Harry becomes undeniable. In the Chamber of Secrets, Dobby reveals that he was mistreated by the Malfoys and that he could not follow through with their plans when he realized Harry's kindness. Such a beautiful place to be free, Dobby says after being freed. The theory of Dobby as a secret agent for the Malfoys loses its strength here as his love and loyalty for Harry shine through. Still, the idea of Dobby being forced into a dark role before he could break free adds a layer of complexity to his character journey. Number 11, Neville used the wrong wand. Neville Longbottom's transformation from a clumsy, unsure boy to a confident and talented wizard is one of the most inspiring arcs in the Harry Potter series. But what if there's more to this change than just personal growth? One theory suggests that Neville's magical abilities were hindered by the wand he used for most of his early years at Hogwarts. According to this theory, the wand Neville used actually belonged to his father, Frank Longbottom, and wasn't suited to his own magical style. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, we see Neville struggling with his magic. He's often clumsy, unable to control his spells, and frequently mocked by his peers. But when his wand is broken during the Battle of the Department of Mysteries, Neville is forced to use a new one. Suddenly he begins to show remarkable progress. "Neville, I think you're becoming a better wizard than me," Harry says, surprised by Neville's newfound skills during their final year. Could it be that Neville's previous struggles were due to using a wand that wasn't his own? This theory would also explain why Neville's true potential didn't emerge until later. In the Goblet of Fire, he's still struggling with basic spells like his failed attempts to perform the levitation charm. But by the end of the series, Neville is not only proficient but instrumental in defeating Voldemort's forces. His bold action in destroying Nagini, Voldemort's Horcrux in Deathly Hallows, solidifies him as a true hero. The theory suggests that, like all wizards, Neville's connection to his wand is essential to unlocking his full magical power. Neville's story is one of self-discovery, but this theory adds an extra layer to his journey. It's possible that his true potential was always there, waiting to be unlocked by the right wand. When Neville finally gets his own, he not only becomes more skilled, but also more confident. "I'm not weak," Neville declares as he stands tall in the face of danger, a far cry from the boy who could hardly cast a spell. Perhaps in the end, the right wand was the key to his transformation. Number 12. Dumbledore and Grindelwald made an unbreakable vow. The relationship between Dumbledore and Grindelwald is one of the most complex in the Harry Potter series, filled with both admiration and betrayal. But one theory takes their connection even further, suggesting that the two wizards bound themselves with an unbreakable vow. According to this theory, Dumbledore and Grindelwald swore a magical oath that they would never harm each other, a bond that lasted even after their falling out. This vow, if true, would explain why Dumbledore was so hesitant to confront Grindelwald in the years that followed their split. The theory adds a tragic layer to their rivalry. Dumbledore's reluctance to face Grindelwald in battle could have been due to this vow, which tied his hands Even as Grindelwald's actions grew darker. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, when Harry learns of the final duel between the two wizards, Dumbledore's reluctance to act takes on a new meaning. "I was in love with him," Dumbledore confesses, but there is more to it than that. The unbreakable vow would have kept Dumbledore from directly confronting Grindelwald until he found a way to break the magical bond, leading to the dramatic and tragic duel that ultimately ended with Grindelwald's imprisonment. This theory makes their final showdown even more poignant. Dumbledore, having spent years avoiding this confrontation, finally faces Grindelwald in 1945. The battle is one of the most intense in wizarding history, and yet, according to the theory, it's not just a battle between two wizards with different ideologies, it's the culmination of a magical promise that had haunted Dumbledore for decades. The battle was so fierce, Harry notes, watching from the pensive, that it seemed as if the very ground beneath them trembled. Was this the release of a bond that had kept them from fighting each other for so long? Although there is no direct evidence in the books to confirm the existence of this unbreakable vow, the theory adds a tragic depth to Dumbledore's character. His guilt over his past with Grindelwald, combined with the burden of this vow, would explain his reluctance to take immediate action against his former friend. Dumbledore's internal conflict, the love he once felt for Grindelwald, the friendship that turned sour, and the magical promise that bound him, makes their rivalry one of the most heartbreaking in the series. Number 13. Voldemort accidentally made Harry immortal. A strange theory suggests that Voldemort accidentally made Harry immortal. The theory revolves around Harry becoming a Horcrux, a fragment of Voldemort's soul residing within him. When Voldemort attempted to kill Harry in the Forbidden Forest, he unknowingly gave Harry a gift, the gift of eternal life. As Voldemort cast the killing curse, Harry, already a Horcrux, survived yet again. But the curse did not work, Harry recalls. "I did it because I was already dead." This event raises an intriguing point. Since Harry was already marked by Voldemort's soul, the curse only destroyed the part of Voldemort's soul within Harry, not Harry himself. Therefore, according to this theory, Voldemort's intention to destroy Harry inadvertently made him immortal. Harry had already defied death twice, once when he survived Voldemort's first attack as a baby, and again when the curse failed to kill him in the forest. In essence, Harry became a paradox, living yet dead. The idea continues, suggesting that Harry's immortality is a cruel twist of fate. He would continue to live, but his loved ones would not. Friends like Ron and Hermione, whom he fought beside, would grow old and pass away while Harry remained unchanged, a silent witness to their departures. "You're not going to die," said Sirius, yet Harry knows better. He is caught in an eternal loop, the weight of life without an end. The haunting part of this theory is that Harry may never find peace. He's already survived the worst of Voldemort's power, but now he faces an eternal existence, burdened with the loss of those he loves. Perhaps the most poignant example is when Harry, after surviving Voldemort's final attack, must carry the heavy knowledge that he alone among all his friends will remain. It's not just victory, it's a curse, and with it, the unyielding burden of time. Number 14, Draco Malfoy was a werewolf. One of the strangest yet surprisingly popular theories among Harry Potter fans is that Draco Malfoy was a werewolf. The idea emerged after his odd behavior in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Throughout the book, Draco looks pale, exhausted, and withdrawn. He disappears mysteriously multiple times, and his mood swings raise suspicion. His strange actions make fans wonder if something darker is at play. Could Draco have been hiding something? Was he cursed? The theory gains momentum when considering that Draco might have been bitten by Fenrir Greyback, the vicious werewolf who serves Voldemort. Fenrir is known for targeting children, and the idea is that he could have attacked Draco as a form of punishment from Voldemort, or to control him. After all, Draco was under immense pressure, tasked with killing Dumbledore. The physical symptoms of exhaustion and illness alongside his secretive disappearances seem to align with the typical transformation of a werewolf. Although J.K. Rowling has denied this theory, fans continue to believe in the hidden clues. They point to Draco's increasingly erratic behavior and his inability to explain his strange actions. One particular scene in, quote, 17 sticks in the minds of fans when Draco is alone in the room of requirement, pacing and muttering, his eyes filled with frustration and fear. Quote 18, he whispers. Quote 19. Is it just the weight of his task, or is something else going on beneath the surface? Even in, quote 20, the theory persists. Draco's anxious demeanour, his reluctance to fight for Voldemort, and the physical toll of his actions give fans more reasons to speculate. Was Draco a victim of Fenrir? Was curse? Or was he simply a young man torn between family loyalty and morality? Whatever the answer, the mystery of Draco Malfoy's strange behaviour continues to captivate fans, adding yet another layer of intrigue to his character. Number 15. Professor McGonagall was a Ministry spy. Minerva McGonagall, the stern yet beloved Transfiguration professor at Hogwarts, has always been one of the most admired and trusted characters in the wizarding world. She is revered for her loyalty to Dumbledore, her dedication to her students, and her unwavering sense of duty. However, there is a strange and intriguing fan theory that suggests McGonagall was more than just a strict teacher and loyal ally of the wizarding world's most revered leader. According to this theory, McGonagall was, in fact, a secret agent for the Ministry of Magic, acting as a spy in service to its agenda. At first glance, this might seem like an absurd claim, given McGonagall Say's outspoken defiance of many of the Ministry's actions, particularly under the rule of Cornelius Fudge and later Rufus Scrimgeour. However, a deeper analysis of her character, her frequent visits to the Ministry, her close relationships with key Ministry officials, and her devotion to maintaining order and discipline might give some credence to this theory. The idea of McGonagall as a secret Ministry operative may not be as outlandish as it seems. McGonagall's connection to the Ministry of Magic is evident throughout the series. Although she was a professor at Hogwarts, she maintained a close relationship with several prominent members of the Ministry. One of the most notable examples is her connection to Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic at the time of Harry Potter's early years. Fudge often consults McGonagall in matters related to Hogwarts, demonstrating a level of trust that goes beyond mere professional courtesy. This trust was, of course, mutual, as McGonagall had a deep respect for the Ministry's role in maintaining the magical world as laws and order, even if she disagreed with some of their policies. Another significant instance that feeds into the theory is McGonagall's frequent visits to the Ministry. As a teacher, her time was primarily devoted to Hogwarts, yet she was often seen at the Ministry, especially when crucial decisions were being made. Her visits were not just to attend to her administrative duties as a professor, but were part of her role in ensuring that the ministry, as actions aligned with the greater good, as she saw it. McGonagall was a strict adherent of law and order, and her occasional reports to the ministry might have been part of her covert duty to act as their eyes and ears within Hogwarts, a place where the ministry's reach was often limited. While McGonagall's relationship with the ministry was complex, it was her relationship with Dumbledore that added another layer to the theory of her being a spy. Dumbledore, a man who was always several steps ahead of everyone else, was known for his distrust of the ministry, especially when its leadership veered into corruption or incompetence. Yet Dumbledore's reliance on McGonagall was absolute, as she was one of his most trusted allies. She worked tirelessly to protect Hogwarts and its students, often at great personal risk. But what if her loyalty to Dumbledore had a dual purpose? What if McGonagall was feeding the ministry information in her role as a covert agent, not to harm Dumbledore's plans, but to help him navigate the complex and often hostile political environment? The idea of McGonagall acting as a spy becomes even more compelling when we consider the various occasions where she silently adheres to the ministry's rules, despite her obvious disdain for certain ministry actions. Her compliance with ministry orders often appeared to be out of duty rather than agreement, as evidenced in her reaction to the arrival of Dolores Umbridge at Hogwarts. Umbridge, the ministry-appointed Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, was a tyrant, and McGonagall had every reason to resist her presence at Hogwarts. However, despite her personal feelings, McGonagall never openly defied the ministry's decision. This willingness to toe the line, even when it went against her personal beliefs, suggests a complex understanding of the political landscape. It raises the possibility that McGonagall was not just following the ministry, Wig's orders, but was doing so to maintain a facade of cooperation, ensuring that her role within Hogwarts remained unquestioned while she worked behind the scenes to protect the school and its students from the ministry's more damaging policies. McGonagall's actions during the height of Voldemort's rise also hint at her covert role. When Harry and his friends were forced to navigate the increasingly dangerous landscape of the wizarding world, McGonagall's interventions were always calculated and carefully measured. She often provided subtle guidance, steering students away from trouble without ever revealing the full extent of the threat they were facing. Her role in the Battle of Hogwarts further reinforces the idea that McGonagall was not merely a professor of transfiguration, but a key player in a much larger political game. Throughout the battle, McGonagall's leadership and tactical decisions were crucial in ensuring the defense of Hogwarts, but one must wonder how much of her strategy was influenced by her clandestine role as an agent for the ministry. Moreover, McGonagall's tendency to enforce discipline and order with an iron fist was another element that fed into the theory. While it's true that she was a strict professor, her adherence to rules extended beyond the confines of Hogwarts. McGonagall understood the importance of order in the magical world, and her commitment to maintaining the stability of Hogwarts was in many ways a reflection of her loyalty to the larger magical community. However, this very dedication to the status quo also made her the perfect candidate for a ministry spy. Her ability to navigate both the school's internal politics and the external pressures of the ministry without ever losing sight of her ultimate goals made her an invaluable asset in times of uncertainty. Number 16. Dumbledore is a time traveller. Albus Dumbledore, the beloved headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, has long been portrayed as a figure of immense wisdom and power, a man who seems to know everything and everyone and whose calm demeanour contrasts sharply with the chaos surrounding him. But what if there is more to his wisdom than mere age and experience? What if Dumbledore is not just a wizard who has lived through many decades, but a time traveller constantly returning to the past to correct mistakes, prevent tragedies, and reshape the future? This theory, which has captivated many fans of the Harry Potter series, suggests that Dumbledore's extraordinary knowledge of the past, present, and future is not a result of his years of experience, but rather a consequence of him travelling back through time. The theory posits that Dumbledore, in his tireless pursuit of preventing dark events, has repeatedly ventured into the past in an attempt to alter crucial moments. The most significant of these moments would undoubtedly include the tragic death of his sister Ariana and the rise of the dark wizard Voldemort. Dumbledore's character is marked by his calm and measured nature. Unlike many of the other characters in the series, whose reactions are often shaped by emotion and circumstance, Dumbledore remains consistently serene. His ability to foresee the potential consequences of events and to guide others with subtle wisdom suggests that he may have already lived through numerous possible outcomes, each time learning from the mistakes of the past and attempting to correct them in future iterations. One of the clearest examples of Dumbledore's potential manipulation of time comes from his own personal tragedy, the death of his sister Ariana. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, it is revealed that Ariana's death occurred during a confrontation between Albus Aberforth and Gellert Grindelwald, a tragic event that Dumbledore always blamed himself for. The theory suggests that this event, in Dumbledore's eyes, was the pivotal moment that led to the unravelling of many other tragedies in his life and possibly in the lives of others. Dumbledore's profound guilt and sorrow over Ariana's death seemed to inform many of his later decisions, but what if it wasn't just guilt that drove him? Perhaps it was an understanding gained from revisiting the past that his actions, or lack thereof, contributed to the downfall of his family and ultimately to the rise of dark forces in the wizarding world. If Dumbledore were a time traveller, this tragedy could have been one of the first events he sought to undo. However, each time he returned to the past, he may have encountered new obstacles and forces that were beyond his control. In each iteration, Dumbledore might have witnessed different outcomes, each one shaped by slight changes in his actions. His overwhelming knowledge of the future could be attributed to his direct experiences with these different timelines, each of which provided him with new insights into the consequences of his decisions. Another crucial event in Dumbledore's life is his encounter with Tom Riddle, the young man who would later become Lord Voldemort. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Dumbledore takes Harry on a journey to uncover Voldemort's Horcruxes, a quest that leads to their eventual confrontation with the Dark Wizard. The theory suggests that Dumbledore, having seen many versions of Voldemort's rise to power, knew that the only way to ultimately defeat him would be by securing Harry's survival. Dumbledore may have realized that Harry was the key to Voldemort's downfall, and his efforts to protect Harry were driven by a long-running plan to ensure the boy's survival across multiple timelines. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Dumbledore's role in the story becomes even more intriguing when we consider the time turner that allows Harry and Hermione to go back in time. The time turner is a powerful magical device that lets the user travel back a few hours into the past. In this book, Dumbledore seems to have a profound understanding of how time travel works and even suggests that Harry and Hermione save Buckbeak and Sirius Black in the past without causing any irreversible damage to the present. This subtle manipulation of time could be a hint that Dumbledore himself has used similar methods before. Perhaps through his own use of time turners or other magical means, he has revisited moments in his own life, adjusting his actions in an attempt to influence future events. Dumbledore's manipulation of time would not be without consequences, however. Every time he travelled to the past, he would have to navigate the complexities of cause and effect. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, when Harry competes in the Triwizard Tournament, Dumbledore's calm composure in the face of Harry is his increasingly dangerous challenges seems to be a result of his knowledge of what is about to happen. Dumbledore knows on some level the peril Harry will face, but he also understands that these events are essential for Harry's growth and development. This knowledge could be the result of Dumbledore's many attempts to intervene in the past, only to realize that some events must happen for the future to unfold as it is meant to. The key to this theory lies in Dumbledore's relationship with fate. He is often described as someone who believes in the importance of choice as opposed to fate or destiny. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Dumbledore tells Harry, "It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities." This belief in the power of choice aligns perfectly with the idea of time travel. Dumbledore may have seen how small decisions could lead to vastly different outcomes, and he likely became obsessed with trying to alter these decisions in the hope of achieving a better future. Number 17. Molly Weasley used love potions. Molly Weasley, the beloved matriarch of the Weasley family, is often remembered for her nurturing care, expert cooking, and fierce loyalty to her children. However, beneath this surface lies a fan theory that has captured the imaginations of many, that Molly secretly used love potions in her cooking to manipulate the relationships within her family, subtly shaping their bonds and romantic entanglements. This theory may sound far-fetched at first, but a deeper look at certain peculiarities in the Weasley family dynamic, combined with subtle hints from J.K. Rowling's text raises intriguing questions about Molly's true role in her family's relationships. For starters, consider the deeply ingrained connection between food and emotion in the wizarding world. Throughout the series, food is used as a comfort, a tool of expression, and a way of bringing people together. Meals at the Burrow are particularly significant. Molly sees cooking is legendary for its ability to warm hearts and heal wounds. But what if these meals had a more powerful effect than simply filling the stomachs of those lucky enough to dine at her table? Could the food served at the Burrow have been subtly infused with something stronger than mere love, the magic of love potions? One of the most striking elements of this theory is the relationship between Ginny Weasley and Harry Potter. Ginny's infatuation with Harry seems to blossom almost overnight. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Ginny goes from a shy younger sister to a confident, determined young woman who openly pursues Harry. Her sudden shift in behavior has long been a subject of fan speculation, but if Molly had been secretly using love potions, could this explain Ginny's overwhelming attraction to Harry? The theory suggests that the frequent meals shared at the Weasley home, where Molly's cooking was always a highlight, could have been the conduit for these magical manipulations. In Half-Blood Prince, Ginny's newfound confidence is evident when she decisively kisses Harry, despite the years of shyness that had characterized her earlier interactions with him. Her boldness seems out of place given her previous, almost awkward demeanor. And yet, it is her ability to completely capture Harry's attention in this way that raises suspicions. What if Molly, knowing the magical influence of love potions, had been carefully crafting her dishes with the goal of subtly influencing Harry's feelings toward Ginny? After all, as a mother, Molly would naturally want her daughter to be happy, and who better to secure Ginny's affection than the famous Harry Potter? Moreover, it is not just Ginny's affections that raise eyebrows. The relationship between Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger is equally perplexing. Ron's affection for Hermione is often painted as a slow burn. While their mutual attraction is evident from early on in the series, Ron's reluctance to admit his feelings or even acknowledge them leads to moments of tension between the two. However, in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, there is a noticeable shift. Ron and Hermione finally confess their love for one another during the Battle of Hogwarts. This sudden, passionate display of affection seems to emerge at a time when Ron's feelings for Hermione were previously underdeveloped, despite his jealousy over her relationship with Victor Crumb in Goblet of Fire. What if, much like with Ginny and Harry, Molly's love potions were working their subtle magic behind the scenes? In the early books, Molly is shown to have a special fondness for Hermione, whom she clearly regards as a daughter. She dotes on Hermione, ensuring that she feels welcome in the Weasley home and is notably protective of her. This maternal affection could have extended beyond platonic love and into the realm of manipulation. By secretly adding love potions to her meals, Molly could have been gently nudging the relationship between Hermione and Ron in the direction she desired. Perhaps she knew that Ron needed a little push to realize what he truly felt for his best friend. The most compelling evidence for this theory lies in Hermione's own words in Half-Blood Prince when she warns Harry about the power of love potions. She recalls how, after drinking a love potion in the past, she had felt the overwhelming influence of its magic. She says, "You know, Harry, there's no such thing as a subtle love potion. It is precisely this remark that sets the stage for fans to speculate on Molly's use of love potions." Hermione's awareness of love potions and their effects is important, as it suggests that she would recognize any attempts to manipulate her feelings or the feelings of those around her. So when Hermione falls in love with Ron, could it be that the potion had already worked its subtle magic on her, especially since Ron was so clueless about his own feelings? Consider the other peculiarities in Molly's life. She is a skilled potion maker, having a deep knowledge of magical ingredients. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, we learn that she was the one who first introduced the idea of brewing certain potions, and her recipes are known to be particularly effective. Her intimate knowledge of magic, particularly when it comes to home remedies, could easily extend to the use of potions for more personal reasons. As a mother with many children and a strong desire to ensure their happiness, what could be more natural than using a little magic to make sure that her children were happy with the right partners? Number 18. Fred and George could read each other's minds. Fred and George Weasley were always more than just twins in the eyes of fans. They were a unit, a seamless entity that seemed to operate as one. Their movements were synchronized, their humor perfectly in sync, and their pranks were so flawlessly executed that it almost appeared as if they could read each other's minds. This idea grew into a peculiar yet charming fan theory. What if Fred and George actually possessed telepathy? This theory, while never confirmed in the books, fits so well with their personalities and actions that it seems almost plausible, leaving fans to speculate on their mysterious connection. From the moment Fred and George were introduced, their bond was undeniable. They were a duo of mischief, their names almost inseparable from each other. They shared a vision, a goal, and an attitude toward life that was perfectly aligned. They were the embodiment of humor and chaos, but what made them stand out was their uncanny ability to coordinate and communicate with each other without so much as a glance. Their synchronized jokes and the way they completed each other, sentences left many wondering if there was more to their relationship than just typical twin closeness. Take, for instance, their moments at the Weasleys' shop, which they had turned into a bustling business of magical pranks and innovations. One of the most iconic scenes in the books takes place when Fred and George decide to open their joke shop, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. The grand opening is a testament to their extraordinary bond as they work in unison to pull off a series of well-timed and elaborately planned stunts. As customers enter, the twins are effortlessly on the same wavelength, knowing exactly what the other will do next without speaking. This smooth synchronization can only lead one to consider the possibility of something more than just shared experience. It hints at the idea of an almost telepathic connection between them. The theory of their telepathy is most convincing when examining their behavior in the earlier books. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, during the Triwizard Tournament, Fred and George are not only involved in the chaos of the event, but also manage to communicate across distances and even through the noise of the crowd. They set off their own fireworks, causing a massive uproar, yet they know exactly when and how to execute their prank, almost as though they are in perfect harmony with one another. This flawless execution, paired with their wide grin and shared laughter, seems too orchestrated for two individuals who are simply in tune with each other as typical twins. Moreover, Fred and George's ability to finish each other sentences is another clue that might point to a deeper connection. A prime example occurs during their participation in the Weasley family's attempt to attend the Quidditch World Cup. When Fred and George are involved in the planning and execution of the escape from the Death Eaters' attack, they display an almost magical synchrony. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, they escape using their invention of extendable ears. As the situation grows more tense and dangerous, they manage to communicate with one another using nothing but hand gestures and expressions, as if they can anticipate each other's next move before it happens. This seamless connection, coupled with their ability to manipulate and control the situation, suggests that their bond could be more than simple telepathy. It could be the result of a hidden magical gift. Their pranks and jokes were always delivered in perfect sync, adding to the notion of telepathic connection. Whether they were causing chaos in the halls of Hogwarts or escaping from danger, their humor was a language they both spoke fluently. There is one particularly amusing scene in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban when Fred and George play a prank on their younger brother Ron. They use a pair of magical extendable ears to eavesdrop on a conversation, only to later reveal that they had been using the very same trick on Ron, showing how they both shared a deep understanding of each other's actions. Their ability to know exactly what the other was thinking without any overt communication is something that would be impossible without a level of shared telepathic understanding. While the twins never openly discuss any magical ability beyond the typical wizarding talents they possess, their chemistry and connection have always sparked curiosity. There is one moment in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix where Fred and George exhibit a level of synchronization that could suggest more than just shared experiences. After the twins leave Hogwarts, they don't just go their separate ways, but instead they embark on a mission together. They leave behind their family and friends, running a successful joke shop, creating products that seemed to always be in line with each other's thoughts. Their creations, from skiving snack boxes to Peruvian instant darkness powder, are always developed with the understanding that each twin knew what the other was thinking without needing to explain it in detail. This type of understanding, especially in the context of creating a successful business together, suggests that their bond was not only emotional, but magical. The nature of Fred and George's bond raises questions about their potential magical abilities that go beyond traditional wizarding skills. If they did possess telepathy, it would explain how they were able to coordinate their pranks with such precision. It would also account for their ability to communicate silently and still manage to pull off elaborate schemes without speaking a word. The idea that they were deliberately hiding this ability adds an intriguing layer to their characters. Fred and George were never ones to draw attention to themselves in terms of magical prowess. They preferred to stay out of the spotlight, often using their talents to entertain rather than to demonstrate their power. Their telepathy could very well have been a closely guarded secret, something they didn't want to reveal to the wizarding world at large. This theory also explains why Fred and George were often so attuned to each other, moods and emotions. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, when Fred and George learn of the tragic events unfolding at Hogwarts, their reaction is immediate and aligned. The two are devastated by the loss of their brother Percy, and their shared grief is palpable. It's a moment that showcases just how deeply connected they were, not just as twins, but as individuals with an emotional and possibly magical connection that allowed them to understand each other on a profound level. Perhaps the most poignant example of their unique connection comes after Fred's tragic death. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, when Fred is killed during the Battle of Hogwarts, George is left to carry on alone, but it's evident that a part of him is lost. It is a tragic moment in the series, made even more heartbreaking by the bond that was broken. George's grief is not only a reflection of the loss of his twin, but also the loss of a deeper connection that had been established long before they ever entered the world of magic. This loss is symbolic of the unique telepathic link that they might have shared, a connection that was severed with Fred West's death. The possibility that Fred and George shared a telepathic bond adds an extra layer of magic to their already extraordinary relationship. While it may never be confirmed in the text, the theory enriches their characters, providing an explanation for their perfect synchronization, their ability to communicate silently, and their deep connection that seemed to transcend mere sibling closeness. Fans have long wondered about the true nature of Fred and George, or bond, and the idea of telepathy offers a magical and fitting explanation for their extraordinary partnership. Their connection, whether mystical or emotional, will forever be remembered as one of the most endearing and fascinating aspects of the Weasley twins' legacy. Number 19. The Dursleys hated Harry because of the Horcrux. The Dursleys' hatred for Harry Potter was legendary. From the very first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, it was clear that Harry's life with the Dursleys was one filled with mistreatment, neglect, and outright cruelty. Vernon Dursley, Petunia Dursley, and their son Dudley never missed an opportunity to belittle, torment, and ostracize Harry. To many, this animosity seemed almost unnatural, especially given that Harry was just a child, left at the doorstep of his aunt and uncle's home by his parents' tragic deaths. But could there have been more to the Dursleys' behavior than mere prejudice against magic and the wizarding world? One curious fan theory suggests that the Dursleys' hatred for Harry might not have been entirely their own fault. Instead, it could be the influence of the very object that made Harry such a unique wizard, a fragment of Voldemort's soul, also known as a Horcrux. The theory is intriguing because it ties into one of the most fundamental aspects of Harry, his identity, his connection to Lord Voldemort. When Voldemort attempted to kill Harry as a baby, a piece of the Dark Wizard's soul latched onto Harry, making him an accidental Horcrux. This fragment of Voldemort's soul had a far-reaching impact on Harry's life, influencing his thoughts and actions in subtle yet significant ways. But could this piece of Voldemort's soul have had an effect on others too, especially those who were constantly in close proximity to Harry? Specifically, could it have amplified the Dursleys' already deeply ingrained prejudices, driving them to act even more aggressively toward him? There are numerous moments throughout the books that hint at the possibility of the Horcrux influencing those around Harry. One of the most compelling examples comes in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, when Harry, Ron, and Hermione find themselves at odds with each other while trying to destroy one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, the cursed locket. The trio, who had been best friends for years, became increasingly frustrated and angry with one another, their tempers flaring over the smallest of issues. At one point, Harry himself admitted that he couldn't explain why he was feeling such overwhelming irritation and anger. The presence of the Horcrux, it seemed, was not only affecting Harry, but was also influencing the dynamic between him and his friends, causing them to lose their usual sense of harmony. This pattern is especially notable because it mirrors the way Harry's relationship with the Dursleys played out. From the very beginning, Harry was subjected to the Dursleys' cruelty. Vernon and Petunia's irrational hatred for Harry always seemed to go beyond simple dislike. They actively sought to suppress him, ensuring that he felt like an outsider in his own family. Even as a baby, when Harry was brought to their doorstep, Petunia's bitterness and resentment were evident. She took him in, but only out of a sense of obligation, not love or compassion. Vernon, meanwhile, could barely tolerate the thought of a magical child in his home, and his attitude only worsened as Harry grew older. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, when Harry receives his letter from Hogwarts, it's clear that the Dursleys will stop at nothing to keep him from his true heritage. They lock him away in the cupboard under the stairs, take away his letters, and even go as far as fleeing to a shack on a rock in the middle of the sea. Throughout it all, their hatred and fear of Harry's magic seem disproportionate to the situation. After all, Harry has done nothing wrong. He is simply a boy discovering his magical abilities. And yet the Dursleys' behaviour becomes increasingly bizarre. This may not have been entirely of their own volition. The presence of Voldemort's soul fragment within Harry could have influenced the Dursleys' minds, causing their feelings of aggression and disdain to become more extreme. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, we see another example of Harry's effect on those around him. Throughout the book, Harry experiences a growing sense of unease and discomfort, particularly when he comes into contact with objects that are tied to Voldemort, such as Tom Riddle's diary. The diary, which is itself a type of Horcrux, exerts a strong influence over Harry, pushing him into a dangerous obsession with the past and clouding his judgment. When Harry finally destroys the diary, he feels a sense of relief, as though the grip of the Horcrux has been lifted from him. What makes this example so compelling in the context of the Dursleys is that it suggests the Horcrux had the power to influence not just Harry, but those around him as well. The Dursleys, who were already predisposed to dislike Harry, may have been subtly manipulated by the presence of the Horcrux. Just as Harry's friends felt a strange sense of irritation when handling the cursed locket, so too might the Dursleys have been affected by the dark magic within Harry. It is a disturbing thought, but one that explains the disproportionate nature of their hatred. In Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Harry is faced with the ultimate test of his strength when he must destroy the final Horcruxes in order to defeat Voldemort. At this point, Harry has learned the full extent of the effects that the Horcruxes have had on his life. But when we look back at his time with the Dursleys, it's clear that the early influence of the Horcrux may have played a significant role in shaping the Dursleys' attitude toward Harry. The bitterness and anger that pervaded their relationship could have been partially fueled by the dark magic inside him. One of the most significant moments that illustrates this theory occurs in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, when Harry finds himself growing increasingly irritated with his friends, particularly Ron and Hermione. This episode mirrors the way the Dursleys have treated Harry throughout his life, by isolating him, provoking him, and pushing him to the brink of despair. The dark influence of the Horcrux seems to amplify these negative feelings, making Harry feel as though he is destined for conflict and alienation. The Dursleys, in turn, may have felt a similar pull toward hostility and resentment, all due to the presence of Voldemort's fragment of soul. Moreover, in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, when Harry first finds out about his parents, deaths, and his connection to the wizarding world, he is told by Hagrid that he is the boy who lived. This revelation is not just about Harry's survival of Voldemort's curse, but also about his role in the larger conflict between good and evil. But the Dursleys, blinded by their hatred of everything magical, fail to see Harry's potential. Instead of nurturing him and helping him understand his place in the world, they lock him away in the cupboard under the stairs, withholding love and care. Their treatment of Harry is not just cruel, it is cold and relentless. This is not just an act of disdain toward a boy. They seem to be rejecting him on a much deeper, subconscious level, perhaps one influenced by the dark magic within him. Another example of this influence can be seen when Harry first encounters Professor Snape in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Snape's hostility toward Harry is unmistakable, but it becomes clear later in the series that Snape, like the Dursleys, has his own personal biases. However, it's also suggested that Snape's animosity toward Harry is influenced by his knowledge of the Horcrux and its connection to Voldemort. Snape's actions toward Harry, though often extreme, can be seen as a reflection of the broader influence that Voldemort's soul has on the people around him. The idea that the Dursleys were influenced by the presence of the Horcrux within Harry explains a lot about their seemingly irrational hatred. Instead of simply being cruel or prejudiced, they may have been victims of dark magic themselves, manipulated by an external force that they couldn't understand. The Horcrux inside Harry could have provoked these negative emotions, amplifying the Dursleys' hatred and fear, and making them treat Harry as though he were an enemy instead of a child in need of love and care. In the end, the Dursleys' behavior toward Harry is tragic. They are not just rejecting him because of his magic, they are rejecting him because they are subconsciously influenced by the dark magic that has become a part of him. While they are still responsible for their actions, it's possible that they were more victims of the situation than we initially thought. Their hatred for Harry, like many aspects of the series, is far more complicated than it appears at first glance. The presence of the Horcrux inside Harry, as suggested by this fan theory, adds a new layer of depth to their cruel behavior and helps us understand just how insidious the influence of Voldemort truly was. Number 20, Hermione is the reincarnated daughter of J.K. Rowling. In the world of Harry Potter, fans have crafted numerous theories over the years, trying to explain the deep connections and hidden meanings in J.K. Rowling's magical universe. Among these, one of the most unusual yet intriguing theories suggests that Hermione Granger, one of the main characters in the series, is actually a reincarnation of Rowling's own daughter, a fictional version placed into the wizarding world for a perfect childhood filled with magic, adventure, and knowledge. This theory has caused quite a stir among the fan community, as it is based on a range of interesting, albeit speculative, observations that draw eerie parallels between the beloved character and the author herself. The first thing that stands out in this theory is the striking resemblance between Hermione, or personality, and Rowling's own traits. Fans have noticed that Hermione shares many qualities with the author, especially when it comes to a passion for books and learning. Hermione, much like Rowling, is introduced as a bookworm. From the very first book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, she is described as someone who is almost constantly with her nose in a book. It is not just any book, but magical textbooks as she searches for knowledge to better herself and assist her friends. And this is seen as a clear reflection of Rowling's own love for literature. In fact, Rowling once confessed that she was a bookish child who always had her head buried in novels, a characteristic that many attribute to Hermione. The idea that Rowling might have subconsciously created Hermione as a mirror image of herself seems to hold some water, considering how the character's love for learning shapes much of her development. However, it's not just Hermione's thirst for knowledge that draws parallels with Rowling's own life. It's also her determination and unwavering belief in doing the right thing. Hermione is, without question, the moral compass of the trio. She is the one who stands up for what she believes is right, even when it's unpopular, often making difficult choices. This aligns with Rowling's own persona as someone who has always fought for equality and justice. Hermione's fierce independence and courage are qualities that Rowling herself embodies, particularly in her outspoken advocacy for social causes and her dedication to using her fame as a platform to promote these ideals. Many fans have pointed out that Hermione, this unyielding spirit, is not only a characteristic of a great character, but also one that mirrors the inner resolve Rowling had in creating the books that would change the world. Another element that fuels the theory is the physical resemblance between Hermione and Rowling. While the book doesn't delve deeply into Hermione's appearance, she is often described as having bushy brown hair and large front teeth, a description that can easily be associated with a young J.K. Rowling, who was famously teased about her own appearance as a child. Rowling, like many other authors, has been open about her childhood experiences and the way she felt about her own looks, especially during her teenage years. The connection between Hermione's awkward early appearance and Rowling's own experiences growing up serves as another piece of evidence for this theory. In fact, many fans have speculated that Hermione's physical transformation throughout the series from a slightly nerdy girl into a confident young woman mirrors Rowling's own journey as a person who became more comfortable with herself as she grew older. Beyond appearance and personality traits, another key element in the theory is Hermione's near omniscient knowledge of the wizarding world. Throughout the books, Hermione is often the one who knows the answers to complex magical questions, solves difficult problems, and comes up with practical solutions at the most crucial moments. She seems to have an almost uncanny ability to know exactly what needs to be done, and often she does it before the others have even figured out what's going on. This knowledge is not just the product of studying hard. It's as if she has an innate understanding of the magical world around her. This is where the theory takes on a more speculative tone, as it suggested that this knowledge might be more than just the result of Hermione's education at Hogwarts. Some fans believe that it could represent Rowling herself, who always seemed to know what was going to happen in her books long before the readers did. Rowling has often spoken about how she planned out the entire series from the beginning, which is not unlike how Hermione always seems to be ahead of the curve, prepared for any challenge. The theory becomes even more compelling when we consider how much Hermione plays the role of a protector for Harry and Ron. She's often the one who keeps the group out of trouble, using her knowledge and quick thinking to navigate their way through the dangers that arise. This sense of protection, of keeping her friends safe in a world that can be cruel and dangerous, is an interesting aspect when compared to the role Rowling has played in the lives of her readers. Many fans have expressed how Rowling-Estes' work has felt like a guide through their own personal challenges. In a sense, it's almost as if Rowling created a character who would embody her own protective instinct, a character who would always be there to help, guide, and defend the vulnerable, much like Rowling's role as a cultural protector of her creation and her readers. There is also an element of fantasy embedded within the theory. By making Hermione a reincarnation of Rowling's fictional daughter, fans suggest that this was Rowling's way of giving her a perfect childhood, one that was filled with magic and adventure. In the real world, Rowling faced a difficult upbringing, especially after her mother, Seer's death, which profoundly affected her and influenced many of the themes in the Harry Potter series, such as loss, resilience, and the importance of family. In contrast, Hermione's life in the wizarding world is filled with magic, friendship, and incredible adventures. She never has to face the hardships that Rowling did as a child. This theory proposes that Rowling created Hermione as a way to live vicariously through her, to experience the kind of childhood she wished she had, a life filled with magical possibilities and a sense of wonder. The idea that Hermione represents a form of autobiography can also be seen in how she deals with her emotions and relationships. Throughout the series, Hermione grows from a bookish know-it-all into a complex, emotionally intelligent young woman who values her friendships deeply. Her relationship with Harry and Ron is central to the series, and the bond they share is one of the most touching aspects of the story. This dynamic reflects Rowling's own experiences with her friendships, the people who supported her through her darkest times, and the emotional growth she underwent during the writing process. Hermione, in a way, could be seen as a representation of Rowling's idealized self, a version of herself who doesn't have to suffer the emotional loneliness that often accompanied her early career and personal life. It's important to note, however, that while the theory of Hermione being Rowling's reincarnated daughter is an intriguing one, it remains entirely speculative. J.K. Rowling has never confirmed such an idea, and the character of Hermione can be seen as a reflection of many of the values and ideals Rowling holds dear, rather than an actual embodiment of herself or her experiences. Nonetheless, this theory adds a layer of depth and mystery to the character of Hermione, offering fans an interesting perspective on how fiction and reality can sometimes intertwine in ways that are both subtle and profound. Whether or not this theory holds any weight, it highlights the unique relationship between an author and her creations, and the ways in which a story can take on a life of its own, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. Number 21. Voldemort is a descendant of Grindelwald. The theory that Voldemort, or Tom Riddle, could be a distant descendant of Gellert Grindelwald, one of the darkest wizards in history, is one that has captivated many fans. It is a theory born out of an intriguing combination of bloodlines, beliefs, and power that these two wizards shared. Though Voldemort and Grindelwald's stories appear separate at first glance, there are strange parallels between them that suggest more than just ideological ties. In fact, it's not entirely impossible that their bond might go beyond shared ambition and magic, reaching into the very fabric of their blood. To begin, it's important to consider the striking similarities between the two wizards, both of whom carved their names into the annals of wizarding history for their ambition, cunning, and thirst for power. Voldemort's obsession with blood purity is well documented throughout the Harry Potter series, a sentiment he inherited from his maternal side. However, while his mother, Merop Gaunt, was a direct descendant of Salazar Slytherin, Voldemort's drive for domination was likely also influenced by an unknown, more sinister ancestry. Grindelwald, on the other hand, was a pure-blood wizard raised in a family that, much like Voldemort's, believed in wizarding superiority. His actions in the pursuit of power, particularly his time as a student at Durmstrang, suggest a man who was highly ambitious and unapologetically ruthless. Grindelwald's early years were marked by brilliance, but also by a dark desire for power and control. His vision was grand, to establish a new world order where wizards would rule over muggles for the greater good. The phrase, "for the greater good," is often repeated throughout the narrative, as it was Grindelwald's justification for his methods, which included manipulation, domination, and destruction. Voldemort, or Tom Riddle, shared this belief, albeit with an even more extreme version. His version of the greater good was not about securing the future of wizardkind, but about securing the power of one wizard alone himself. But what if this obsession with power wasn't just ideology? What if it was in their blood? The theory that Voldemort could be a descendant of Grindelwald would explain much about Tom Riddle, his natural charisma, and his drive for control. After all, both men exhibited a similar magnetism, capable of bending others to their will with little more than their presence. Voldemort's early success at gaining followers was not simply because of his mastery of magic. It was also due to an innate charm that compelled others to obey him without question. Grindelwald's charisma was also a defining characteristic of his character. He was able to convince a young and impressionable Albus Dumbledore to join him in his cause despite the older wizard, his moral reservations. This ability to manipulate and persuade was something Voldemort shared, though his charm took on a more sinister edge. Both wizards understood that power is not just about magic, but about the ability to control people's minds. It's easy to imagine that this ability could have been passed down through generations, hidden deep in their bloodline. Furthermore, both Grindelwald and Voldemort were highly skilled in dark magic. Their knowledge of the darkest of arts was profound, and it is possible that their connection ran deeper than just shared magical talent. Grindelwald, his creation of the Deathly Hallows symbol, and his hunt for the Elder Wand paralleled Voldemort's obsession with immortality and the Horcruxes. These two men sought to alter the balance of magic in ways that no one had dared before. Grindelwald believed in the power of the Elder Wand, and Voldemort, much later, sought out its power as well. This shared quest for ultimate magical authority ties them together in a way that transcends their individual goals. They both sought to be the most powerful wizard alive, and their methods, from manipulating others to using the darkest magic, show a deep connection between them, one that could be rooted in a shared family history. The bloodline connection between Grindelwald and Voldemort would also help explain their similar views on the Chosen Ones, the belief that only those of pure blood and exceptional magical ability were worthy of ruling. Grindelwald viewed Muggles as inferior and believed that wizards were destined to rule over them. Voldemort likewise believed that Muggles were inferior and that only those with pure magical blood, like himself, should have dominion over the wizarding world. While their ideologies may have differed slightly in their application, the core belief remained the same: wizards were superior, and only the most powerful among them should rule. One of the more fascinating elements of this fan theory is the idea that Voldemort's eventual defeat at the hands of Harry Potter, who is himself the Chosen One, might have been preordained by this hidden bloodline connection. If Grindelwald had a hand in shaping Voldemort's destiny, whether through blood or ideology, then it is only fitting that the greatest threat to their shared vision would come from someone with the very opposite perspective. Harry Potter, with his humility, his loyalty to his friends, and his ability to love, was the antithesis of everything Grindelwald and Voldemort stood for. The connection between Voldemort and Grindelwald might thus have been part of a larger cosmic balance. The Dark Wizard, his ultimate downfall, and the rise of a more virtuous leader would be the inevitable result of this tension. One must also consider the role of the Deathly Hallows in this equation. Grindelwald's pursuit of the Hallows, particularly the Elder Wand, was a manifestation of his desire to be the most powerful wizard in existence. Voldemort's own interest in the Hallows is not directly explored in the books, but his obsession with power and immortality leads him to make use of the most forbidden of magic. It is easy to speculate that Grindelwald's desire for the Elder Wand might have created a lineage of dark wizards leading to Voldemort, ultimate obsession with the Hallows and his belief that they would make him invincible. The idea that Voldemort could be a descendant of Grindelwald also ties into the larger theme of family and bloodlines that runs throughout the Harry Potter series. Voldemort's obsession with his family's past, particularly his descent from Salazar Slytherin, was a driving force in his life. He sought to control his lineage, to define it on his terms, and to cast aside anyone who did not meet his standards of purity. Similarly, Grindelwald's obsession with blood purity and his desire to control wizardkind reflected his own twisted sense of legacy. It's possible that Voldemort's own desire to assert his dominance over others was influenced by Grindelwald's influence, whether direct or indirect. Additionally, it is important to recognize the parallels between the two men as relationships with Dumbledore. Both men, in their own ways, saw Dumbledore as an obstacle to their plans. Grindelwald and Dumbledore had a deep bond in their youth, one that was broken by their differing ideologies. Voldemort, on the other hand, sought to use Dumbledore's influence for his own gain, but ultimately found that he was no match for the wizarding world's greatest protector. Both men were deeply affected by their relationships with Dumbledore, and in some ways they both viewed him as a necessary evil in their pursuit of ultimate power. In the end, the idea that Voldemort and Grindelwald shared a bloodline is a compelling one. While it may not be explicitly stated in the books, the evidence that can be drawn from their shared ideologies, magical abilities and personal histories provides enough material for fans to form this intriguing theory. Whether or not J.K. Rowling intended this connection when she created the characters of Voldemort and Grindelwald, it's undeniable that their similarities cannot be ignored. It's a theory that provides a deeper layer of understanding to both characters and offers an alternative view of the forces at play in the wizarding world. If Voldemort is indeed a distant descendant of Grindelwald, then it only adds to the tragic and complex nature of both men's legacies. Number 22. Fawkes the Phoenix was once a wizard. The theory surrounding Fawkes, Dumbledore's Phoenix, has fascinated many Harry Potter fans over the years, and it is one of those speculative ideas that have stirred debate and contemplation among the wizarding world avid followers. The theory suggests that Fawkes is not merely a magical creature, but rather a wizard cursed into the form of a phoenix as a means of atonement for past wrongdoings. This theory adds an entirely new layer of depth to Fawkes' role in the story, making him not just a companion to Dumbledore, but a character burdened with an immense sense of guilt and seeking redemption for some unspeakable sin from a time long past. Fawkes' true identity as a former wizard who became a phoenix for the purpose of penance could explain many of his actions, from his unwavering loyalty to Dumbledore to his extraordinary abilities and mysterious attachment to the concept of sacrifice. At first glance, Fawkes seems to be little more than a magical bird, an extraordinary magical creature with impressive powers such as healing tears and the ability to regenerate through fire. However, when you look at his bond with Albus Dumbledore, it is easy to sense something more profound. Phoenixes are known for their loyalty and for choosing their masters carefully. Fawkes' loyalty to Dumbledore is unparalleled in the series. He arrives at crucial moments, offering help at exactly the right time. His first notable act is when he defends Dumbledore in the Ministry of Magic after Harry's encounter with the basilisk. Later, Fawkes becomes an instrumental figure in Dumbledore's fight against Voldemort. His ability to heal through tears saves Harry and others on multiple occasions. But the theory goes further, suggesting that this attachment to Dumbledore is more than just the usual connection between a phoenix and its master. It implies that Fawkes' loyalty is not only to a powerful wizard, but also tied to something deeper, an act of redemption. Dumbledore, a figure of wisdom and forgiveness, could very well be the wizard Fawkes has been seeking all his life to guide him toward forgiveness. The phoenix's ability to regenerate, to rise from its own ashes, can be seen as symbolic of Fawkes' own journey of atonement. Just as the phoenix is reborn through fire, Fawkes' transformation into the bird could represent a metaphorical fire that burned away his past sins, offering him a chance to start anew. But this fire comes with a price. The memory of his past life is not entirely erased. Instead, Fawkes seems to retain the knowledge of his previous existence, including the mistakes he made as a human. This could explain why he is so drawn to moments of deep emotional significance, such as when he assists Harry in the Chamber of Secrets, or when he helps Dumbledore during his final confrontation with Voldemort. These moments are not just random acts of kindness, they are acts of redemption, where Fawkes, through his actions, seeks to make amends for his past. One of the most striking elements of Fawkes' character is his deep empathy, particularly his ability to feel pain. The phoenix's tears are magical and possess healing properties, but the idea that Fawkes feels pain suggests that he, too, is in some way suffering from the weight of his past. This is not a mere passing ailment, but a permanent part of his existence. Fawkes may not only be healing others, but also attempting to heal himself, a process that could be driven by his guilt and desire for redemption. His connection to Dumbledore seems to go beyond a simple master-servant relationship. It appears to be that of a mentor and a student, with Dumbledore unknowingly guiding Fawkes on a path toward absolution. This connection could also explain why Fawkes is drawn to Dumbledore in particular, someone who has experienced the burdens of regret and the pursuit of redemption himself. Fawkes' rebirth from flames takes on a deeper meaning in light of this theory. The phoenix's ability to regenerate is a symbol of renewal, but for Fawkes, this regeneration might be tied to a constant struggle with his past. Each time he rises from the ashes, he might be trying to shed the weight of his past crimes, though he is never fully able to escape them. This eternal cycle of death and rebirth becomes a metaphor for his personal atonement, each rebirth a new chance to undo the wrongs of his former life, but also a reminder that true redemption is a long and difficult road. His immortal nature allows him to keep trying, never giving up on his quest for absolution. Dumbledore's relationship with Fawkes is also crucial in understanding this theory. Throughout the series, Dumbledore is portrayed as someone with a deep understanding of suffering, guilt, and the need for redemption. He himself is a figure burdened with past mistakes, particularly in relation to his early ambitions and his eventual falling out with Grindelwald. Dumbledore's own journey of seeking forgiveness for his youthful mistakes mirrors Fawkes' search for redemption. In a sense, Dumbledore becomes a reflection of Fawkes' own struggles, offering him guidance and understanding. Dumbledore's acceptance of Fawkes, despite the Phoenix past, could represent a form of unconditional forgiveness. This is not just a master's forgiveness of a familiar, but a deeper understanding of what it means to struggle with one's past and to seek redemption. Fawkes' symbolic connection to the concept of sacrifice is another element that supports the theory of his being a cursed wizard. Throughout the series, phoenixes are associated with selflessness and sacrifice, often appearing at moments of great need. Fawkes' ability to heal through his tears and his role in helping others during critical moments are indicative of this theme. He is not only loyal but is also willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good. This willingness to sacrifice could be seen as a way for Fawkes to make amends for his past sins. By helping others in their time of need, Fawkes is not only assisting his allies, but also redeeming himself, one act at a time. The idea that Fawkes is a cursed wizard also fits within the broader themes of the Harry Potter series, particularly the theme of choice. Throughout the books, the idea that one's actions and choices define who they are is a central theme. Fawkes, despite being a magical creature, made a choice to become a phoenix, perhaps as a way to redeem himself for past wrongs. His transformation is an act of willpower, a decision to change his form and take on the burden of his past in the hope of finding redemption. This is not a punishment, but rather an opportunity to prove that no matter the mistakes one has made, it is always possible to seek forgiveness and to change. Furthermore, Fawkes' healing abilities seem to be connected not only to his power, but to the emotional and physical healing of others, which adds to the idea of him being a figure of redemption. When Harry is poisoned by the basilisk venom in the Chamber of Secrets, it is Fawkes' tears that heal him. This act of healing is significant because it shows that Fawkes is not only capable of helping others, but is also deeply invested in the idea of restoration and healing. For Fawkes, this act could be seen as a form of healing for himself, a way to continue his personal journey of redemption. His ability to heal others is not just a gift, but a constant reminder of the work he must do to heal himself. There is also a subtle connection between Fawkes and the concept of time. The Phoenix's long lifespans and ability to regenerate suggest that Fawkes has witnessed the passage of centuries. His age could mean that he has seen much more than the other characters, providing him with a unique perspective on life, death, and redemption. His memories, though fragmented and shrouded in mystery, could offer insights into his past life as a wizard. In this sense, Fawkes represents not just the magical world's view of immortality, but also the burden that immortality can place on a soul-seeking redemption. Throughout the Harry Potter series, Fawkes' role is not just to act as a companion to Dumbledore, but as a reminder of the importance of forgiveness, atonement, and sacrifice. His attachment to Dumbledore, his acts of healing, and his ability to regenerate are all part of a larger narrative about the struggle for redemption. Fawkes may not be a simple magical creature, but a deeply complex character who serves as a reflection of the themes of guilt, redemption, and the possibility of change that run throughout the entire series. By transforming into a phoenix, Fawkes has chosen to live a life of penance, constantly working to atone for his past mistakes, and his unwavering loyalty to Dumbledore shows that even the most burdened of souls can find a path to redemption. Number 23, Harry has no soul, like a Dementor. The fan theory that has gained significant traction within the Harry Potter community is one of the darkest and most unsettling concepts. that Harry Potter himself is essentially soulless, a shell of a person with only his memories and magical potential intact, following the failed attempt on his life by Voldemort as a baby. According to this theory, the event that led to the creation of Voldemort's Horcruxes was far more significant than just a mere split in Voldemort's own soul. It was an act that resulted in the destruction of Harry's soul, leaving behind a husk of a person who could still function with all his memories, but without the essence that defines life itself. The theory hinges on a crucial moment from Harry Potter's infancy, the night when Voldemort attempted to kill Harry. We know that Voldemort's killing curse, when it rebounded off Harry's protective mother as sacrifice, inadvertently created a Horcrux, which tied part of Voldemort's soul to Harry. However, proponents of this dark theory argue that Voldemort's curse didn't merely create a Horcrux, it also destroyed Harry, his soul, as the curse magic tore apart the very essence of the child. This would explain Harry's unusual connection to Voldemort, as well as his odd experiences with dark magic and troubling visions. Harry's connection to Voldemort is perhaps most notably seen throughout the series in his ability to hear Voldemort's thoughts and feel his emotions, particularly in moments of crisis or great stress. As early as the Chamber of Secrets, Harry finds himself experiencing odd sensations, such as a sudden, inexplicable desire to kill and strange dreams where he is either Voldemort himself or a passive observer of his actions. In the Order of the Phoenix, Harry suffers deeply from the ability to see through Voldemort's eyes, especially when he is trapped in a situation where he feels helpless. This strange connection is one of the central features that supports the theory. How could a young boy, separated by years and thousands of miles, feel so in tune with the darkest wizard alive? According to the fan theory, this connection is not the result of Harry's emotional turmoil, but of a much deeper and darker force that binds him to Voldemort's soul. Moreover, Harry's experiences with Dementors, the terrifying creatures that feed on despair, are significant. Dementors are capable of draining a person's soul, leaving them in a state of despair and hopelessness. Harry, however, seems to react to the presence of Dementors in a peculiar way. While most people are utterly debilitated by the creatures, Harry not only senses their presence with a profound sense of cold and dread, but also experiences memories and emotions that are not entirely his own. The theory posits that Harry, being soulless, is more sensitive to the effects of the Dementors because he doesn't have a soul to protect him from their influence. Instead of feeling the emptiness that most people would, Harry feels a coldness that comes from within himself, a lack of warmth that aligns with the very essence of the Dementors. The connection between Harry and dark magic is another piece of evidence cited by supporters of the theory. Throughout the series, Harry frequently finds himself drawn to dark objects or dangerous situations, often against his better judgment. For instance, in the Goblet of Fire, Harry is inexplicably drawn to the Triwizard Cup, despite knowing that it is likely a trap set by dark forces. Similarly, in The Half-Blood Prince, Harry finds himself using dark spells such as Sectum Sempra, which, while he doesn't fully understand, he uses effectively and without the hesitation of someone who has not already been exposed to the dark side of magic. And these moments suggest that Harry's magical abilities may be influenced by the darkness in his very soul, or lack thereof. But perhaps the most poignant evidence of Harry's emptiness comes in his internal struggles with his emotions. Throughout the series, Harry constantly battles with feelings of loneliness, alienation, and an overwhelming sense of dread. While these emotions are certainly understandable given the traumatic circumstances of his life, they also seem to linger in a way that doesn't feel entirely natural. Harry is unable to truly feel the depth of human emotions like love or happiness, despite being surrounded by people who care about him. This lack of warmth from within himself could be indicative of the absence of a soul, leaving him in a state of perpetual coldness. Another disturbing aspect of this theory is Harry's deep sense of yearning. From the very beginning, Harry feels an inexplicable pull toward things that would typically be considered dark or dangerous. In the Philosopher's Stone, when Harry first encounters the Mirror of Erised, the mirror shows him a life that is full of love and family, a life he can never truly experience. The theory suggests that this is not just a reflection of Harry's desire for family, but of something much deeper, a desire to feel a warmth that he has never known, something that can only come from the soul. The mirror shows Harry what he lacks, the ability to truly belong and feel at home. Throughout the books, Harry also experiences intense feelings of hopelessness and despair, much like the victims of Dementors. These feelings often manifest when he is alone or under extreme stress, such as during his confrontation with Voldemort in the Goblet of Fire, or in the Order of the Phoenix, when he struggles with the loss of Sirius. Harry's constant internal struggle with his emotions is perhaps a reflection of his empty core, a struggle to fill the void left by the destruction of his soul. Moreover, the fan theory suggests that Harry's connection to dark magic is not just accidental. In the Deathly Hallows, Harry learns that he has been carrying part of Voldemort's soul within him, a fragment that links him to the Dark Lord. While this connection is widely understood to be a consequence of the curse Voldemort cast on him, the theory proposes that it was more than just a piece of Voldemort's soul. Voldemort's curse effectively destroyed Harry's soul, and what remained was simply the magic and memories that were once his. Harry's constant ability to survive and recover from the most dangerous situations is seen as a sign of this emptiness. He is not living in the true sense of the word, but merely existing, driven by the magic within him rather than the life force that a soul provides. In the final battle with Voldemort, Harry faces the ultimate test of this theory. When Voldemort strikes him with the killing curse in the Forbidden Forest, Harry's body falls into a limbo state, where he is confronted by Dumbledore in a place that exists outside of time and space. It is here, in this strange place, that Harry chooses to return to the living, knowing that he must face Voldemort one final time. The theory posits that this moment represents Harry's soul being reborn, a final act of defiance against the void left by Voldemort's curse. However, the fact that Harry can return at all suggests that he has never fully crossed over to the other side, reinforcing the idea that Harry is, in some sense, an empty vessel. He can still fight, still love, and still choose to do what is right, but at a cost. Finally, the theory touches on the fact that Harry's life and his struggles are shaped by his inability to fully experience the world the way others do. He is constantly surrounded by friends and loved ones who help him navigate the chaos of his life, yet he remains isolated from them in a way that seems almost supernatural. The emptiness he feels is not just emotional, but existential, and it colours every decision he makes, every step he takes toward his ultimate destiny. This theory, while dark and unsettling, offers a new lens through which to view the Harry Potter series. It challenges the idea of Harry as the hero who triumphs against evil with a strong, noble heart. Instead, it paints him as something far more tragic, a boy who, by no fault of his own, is destined to carry a darkness that will never fully leave him. Whether or not this theory is true is open to debate, but it undeniably adds a layer of depth and complexity to Harry's journey, turning his battle against Voldemort into something far more personal and metaphysical than it might first appear. Number 24, Parseltongue came from the Horcrux. In the world of Harry Potter, one of the most intriguing mysteries surrounds Harry's ability to speak Parseltongue, the ability to understand and speak the language of snakes. This skill is first revealed to us in the Chamber of Secrets, when Harry converses with a snake at the zoo, inadvertently causing it to attack Dudley. This sudden, inexplicable ability seems to come out of nowhere, leaving both Harry and the readers questioning its origin. While J.K. Rowling later provides an explanation linking Harry, seer's Parseltongue ability, to the dark mark left in him by Voldemort, there is another fan theory that suggests the origins of this ability are far more complex and chilling than initially believed. According to this theory, Harry's ability to speak to snakes isn't simply a gift passed down from Voldemort, but rather a side effect to the dark magic within him, a power tied to the very essence of the Horcrux that Voldemort unknowingly created when he attempted to kill Harry as an infant. The theory begins with a key detail that fans often overlook in the original books, the Horcrux that Voldemort unknowingly embedded within Harry. In The Half-Blood Prince, Harry learns that he is in fact a Horcrux, a vessel of Voldemort's soul, albeit an unintentional one. This revelation is staggering, as it means that Harry has been carrying a piece of the Dark Lord's power inside him for most of his life. Yet this fact, though central to the plot, seems only partially explained in terms of its effects on Harry, his behavior and abilities. The power to speak Parseltongue, for instance, is never fully explained as the result of Harry's connection to Voldemort. Instead, it is suggested that Harry's ability is a direct result of the fragment of Voldemort's soul residing within him. This interpretation leads to an unsettling conclusion. The Parseltongue ability is not an inherited trait from Slytherin, as many have believed. It is not a gift at all, it is a curse. The piece of Voldemort's soul inside Harry has somehow influenced his body, granting him the ability to communicate with snakes, a power Voldemort himself has always used as one of his key signs of identity. However, this ability was never truly a part of Harry's nature. He was never meant to speak Parseltongue. It was an unintended consequence of the Horcrux. The dark magic embedded in him manifested itself as the ability to speak with snakes, a skill Voldemort and his followers had long used as a symbol of their superiority and control over the magical world. In fact, as the story progresses, we learn that Harry's connection to Voldemort runs deeper than just this one ability. It's a connection that affects his thoughts, emotions, and even his physical well-being. This dark magic is something that Harry cannot escape, not without great cost. In the Deathly Hallows, as Harry prepares to sacrifice himself to destroy the Horcrux within him, we see the extent of this influence. The final destruction of Voldemort's piece of soul within Harry also results in the loss of Harry's ability to speak Parseltongue. It is a symbolic moment marking the end of the influence that Voldemort had over him. However, this loss is not merely a loss of a magical skill, it is, in a deeper sense, the loss of a fragment of his own identity. The moment Harry no longer speaks Parseltongue, he is free from Voldemort's lingering presence, but at the same time he is also severed from a part of himself that had been shaped by the Dark Lord, malevolent magic. What makes this theory even more compelling is the tragic nature of Harry's journey. From the beginning, Harry's life is overshadowed by the consequences of Voldemort's actions. He was marked as Voldemort's equal from the moment the Dark Lord's curse rebounded on him as an infant, and his very survival became a mark of his unique connection to Voldemort. As Harry grows, he constantly grapples with this connection. He never truly had a choice in the matter. He was born into a world of darkness, bound to a fate that he could neither control nor fully understand. The Parseltongue ability then becomes another reminder of this inescapable destiny. It is not a blessing, but a curse, a manifestation of the dark magic Voldemort unknowingly placed inside him. Even more than that, Harry's relationship with Parseltongue reflects the way in which the magic of the Horcrux influences Harry's sense of self. Throughout the series, Harry struggles with his identity, who he is and what he is meant to be. Is he the hero who must defeat Voldemort, or is he simply a pawn in a larger, darker game? The Parseltongue ability, as a direct consequence of the Horcrux inside him, symbolizes the conflict within Harry himself. He is both a product of light, his mother's love, his friends' loyalty, and his own courage, and a product of darkness linked to the most dangerous wizard to ever live. The loss of Parseltongue after the destruction of the Horcrux is therefore not just the removal of a power, it is the removal of a fragment of Voldemort essence from within Harry. For years, Harry lived with this unwanted part of him, and when it was gone, Harry was left to reflect on the reality of who he had been and who he had become. The transformation is tragic because it signifies the way in which Harry was never truly in control of his own destiny. He had been forced to live with Voldemort's influence, unable to escape it until he finally faced the ultimate sacrifice. By the end of the Deathly Hallows, Harry no longer speaks Parseltongue, and with that, he is finally free from the legacy of Voldemort. Yet the theory also suggests that this freedom comes at a great cost. The loss of Parseltongue is not simply the removal of a skill, it is the removal of a deep, fundamental part of himself. For years, Harry's bond with Voldemort shaped who he was, and now, after Voldemort's defeat, Harry is left to redefine himself. But this is not a simple process. He is no longer just the boy who survived. He is the man who fought and sacrificed not just to defeat the darkness, but to overcome the darkness that was once a part of him. In many ways, the theory suggests that Harry's ability to speak Parseltongue was never truly a gift of Slytherin, nor was it part of his own identity. It was the result of the darkness forced upon him by Voldemort. And when that darkness is finally vanquished, Harry is left to face the tragic reality of who he truly is, neither a hero destined for greatness nor a descendant of Slytherin, but simply a boy who was born into darkness and chose instead to fight for the light. Number 25. Lupin was never a real werewolf. One of the most bizarre and paradoxical fan theories to emerge from the Harry Potter fandom revolves around the character of Remus Lupin. The theory suggests that Lupin, the beloved defense against the dark arts teacher and a member of the Marauders, was never truly a werewolf. Instead, he was merely under the impression that he was one due to a dark curse or suggestion placed upon him as a child. According to this theory, Lupin's affliction was not a physical transformation, but rather a psychological one, triggered and manipulated by forces seeking to shame and isolate him. At first glance, this idea may seem ridiculous. After all, Lupin's condition is clearly depicted as a physical ailment in the books. His transformations are described in great detail, particularly in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, when Lupin is forced to transform during a full moon. He disappears from the classroom early in the evening, and the next day he returns looking tired and dishevelled, explaining that he has a rather bad case of the flu. But the fan theory pushes back against this simple interpretation of Lupin's condition, suggesting that his symptoms may have been psychological, not physiological. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence that proponents of this theory point to is the fact that Lupin only transforms when others are around. The full moon in the Harry Potter world is traditionally associated with the transformation of werewolves. However, Lupin's transformations seem to take place exclusively in the presence of others. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione find Lupin in his werewolf form, it is always during a moment when they are in close proximity. This fact has led some fans to speculate that Lupin's transformations were the result of a psychological trigger, rather than a true physical change. Additionally, Lupin's behavior and symptoms before and after his transformations are often seen as more psychological than physical. He exhibits classic signs of someone suffering from trauma, guilt, and anxiety. His fear of being discovered as a werewolf and his desire to isolate himself from others may point to a deeper psychological struggle. Lupin is a man deeply ashamed of his condition, a condition that he believes makes him unworthy of love and acceptance. He isolates himself from the students at Hogwarts, choosing to stay in his office during the full moon to avoid anyone seeing him in his vulnerable state. In this light, his affliction could be understood not as a physical transformation, but as a manifestation of his internal struggle. The theory also suggests that Lupin's family was not the victim of a werewolf attack, but rather the victim of a dark curse or enchanted suggestion placed upon them by an enemy. One prominent possibility is that the Lupin family was targeted by the Death Eaters who sought to discredit the family and ruin their lives. The idea of a werewolf curse would have been the perfect weapon capable of ostracizing Lupin from the magical community. By making him believe that he was a werewolf, the Death Eaters could manipulate him into a state of isolation, ruining his reputation and forcing him to hide away in fear and shame. This would explain the secrecy surrounding his condition and why he never sought a cure or a solution despite his clear discomfort with it. Lupin's apparent lack of interest in finding a cure is another point raised by fans of the theory. In the books we learn that Lupin never sought out the wolfsbane potion, a potion that could prevent the physical effects of the transformation. Instead, he seems resigned to his fate, accepting his condition with quiet dignity. He doesn't seem to have any hope of ever finding a cure for his affliction, suggesting that he is, in fact, not truly a werewolf, but rather a man suffering from a mental condition. This reluctance to seek help, despite his obvious discomfort, could indicate that Lupin doesn't believe there is any help to be had, because in his mind, his curse is an inescapable part of who he is. Another aspect of this theory is the relationship between Lupin and his friends James Potter, Sirius Black, and Peter Pettigrew. According to this interpretation, Lupin's friends were not merely aware of his condition, they were complicit in perpetuating the belief that he was a werewolf. The Marauders, in their mischievous youth, could have easily used their skills in magic to create the illusion of a transformation, or they could have simply manipulated Lupin's mind into believing that he was a werewolf. This would explain why Lupin was always so uncomfortable around his friends despite their apparent loyalty to him. While they loved him, they were also responsible for reinforcing the myth that Lupin was cursed. They could have believed at the time that they were helping him by offering him their support, but in reality they were contributing to his isolation and psychological trauma. The theory also suggests that the reason Lupin never sought out the help of the wizarding medical community is that he believed his condition was irreversible. He may have thought that no one could help him because no one had ever told him that his transformation wasn't real. The wizarding world, with all its magical knowledge, was likely just as convinced as Lupin that he was a werewolf, and so he never questioned it. He never thought to seek out any other explanation, as he had been led to believe that he was cursed for life. This belief in his own affliction became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Lupin's mind told him he was a werewolf, and so he behaved as though he were one, reinforcing the idea in his own mind and in the minds of others. A fascinating part of the theory is the notion that Lupin says, quote 67, transformations are not simply a product of magical manipulation, but also a product of his own psyche. His symptoms resemble those of someone suffering from PTSD or severe anxiety. When Lupin transforms, it's not necessarily because of an external trigger, but because his mind believes it has to happen. The way he reacts to the full moon suggests that he is responding to a psychological cue rather than a physical one. The full moon is an important part of the werewolf lore in the wizarding world, but it might not be the cause of Lupin's transformation. Rather, it could be a deeply ingrained psychological trigger, one that he believes will lead to his transformation, and one that manifests itself in his behavior. There is a strong emphasis in this theory on Lupin's social isolation. Throughout the series, Lupin is portrayed as a man who is constantly battling his own self-worth. He hides away from the world and rejects any notion that he could ever be a worthy member of society. This behavior could be the result of a deep-seated belief that he is cursed, that he is fundamentally flawed, and that no one will ever accept him. He hides his true nature from his students, from his friends, and from the world. This sense of shame could be the result of the curse, which made him believe he was different from everyone else, unable to fit in or find peace. It is easy to see how this theory could be appealing to fans, especially those who are drawn to the psychological aspects of Lupin's character. It adds layers to his story, making him not just a tragic figure, but a victim of manipulation and mental trauma. It reframes his struggle with isolation and guilt, turning it into a story about the power of suggestion and the dangers of believing in something that isn't real. In this theory, Lupin is not just fighting against an external force, but against the internal monster that has been planted in his mind, a monster that he believes is real, but that is nothing more than a figment of his imagination. By exploring this theory, fans are able to delve deeper into Lupin's character, examining not only his outward struggles, but the hidden emotional wounds that define him. It challenges us to think about the power of belief and how deeply our perceptions of ourselves can shape our actions and our lives. The theory suggests that Lupin's greatest enemy was not the werewolf inside of him, but the doubt and fear that clouded his mind. This makes his journey all the more tragic, because it wasn't just a physical transformation that held him back, it was his own mind. Number 26. Ginny used a love potion on Harry. The theory that Ginny Weasley used a love potion to make Harry Potter fall in love with her has been a topic of much debate within the Harry Potter fandom. It's a theory that, though controversial, has captured the imagination of fans who are keen to explore the darker, more manipulative side of Ginny's character. The central idea is that Ginny, who has been in love with Harry since she was a little girl, used magic to force his affections, particularly in the 6th book, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. The theory suggests that Ginny's sudden, unexpected romantic connection with Harry wasn't as genuine as it appeared on the surface. The first clue that some fans point to when supporting this theory is Ginny's obsession with Harry from a young age. From the very beginning of the series, Ginny's crush on Harry is apparent. In the Chamber of Secrets, she is portrayed as a shy, red-faced girl, often fumbling in front of Harry. Yet, despite her initial awkwardness, Ginny's feelings for him are clear. She is drawn to Harry, not just because of his fame or his courage, but because of the person he is. However, as the books progress, Ginny's love for Harry seems to deepen in intensity. This leads some fans to believe that Ginny's feelings were not entirely natural, but rather manipulated through the use of magic. The theory becomes more compelling in The Half-Blood Prince. During the 6th book, Ginny's sudden romantic relationship with Harry catches many readers off guard. The shift is abrupt and seems somewhat uncharacteristic of Harry, his usually cautious nature when it comes to romance. Up until this point, Harry had been focused on defeating Voldemort and, most notably, struggling with his own emotions surrounding Cho Chang. Yet, in a matter of pages, Harry is suddenly deeply in love with Ginny, a relationship that seems to develop too quickly, given their history. This rapid transition in their dynamic raises suspicions among fans, and the idea that a love potion could explain Harry's sudden change of heart seems plausible to some. The idea of a love potion is not new to the series. In The Half-Blood Prince, we see that love potions are a part of the magical world's darker side. In fact, in the same book, Harry himself is shown to be under the influence of Felix Felicis, a potion that makes him incredibly lucky. It's not far-fetched to think that a love potion which can subtly manipulate a person's emotions could be used in the same way. The fans who support this theory argue that Ginny's actions during the book are more deliberate than they first appear. Some even suggest that Ginny learned the art of potion making from her mother, Molly Weasley, who is believed by some to have used similar magical means to keep her husband, Arthur, under control. Molly's own relationship with Arthur is often cited as evidence for this theory. In the books, it's clear that Molly and Arthur's relationship is one of love and mutual respect. However, there are moments in the series when Molly's behavior towards Arthur is overly controlling. Fans who believe in the love potion theory suggest that Molly might have used magic to ensure that Arthur remained devoted to her. The Weasley family is shown to have a deep knowledge of magic, and Molly, as the matriarch, is likely capable of using her skills to ensure the well-being of her family. The argument here is that Ginny, growing up in such an environment, would have learned these skills from her mother, possibly even using them to gain Harry's affections. One of the most significant points that fans use to support the theory is the way Ginny behaves around Harry. Throughout The Half-Blood Prince, Ginny is shown to be incredibly confident, much more so than in previous books. Her boldness and flirtatious nature seem out of place for someone who had once been shy and self-conscious. In fact, the Ginny of The Half-Blood Prince is a completely different person compared to the timid girl from the Chamber of Secrets. This transformation is so dramatic that it leads some fans to wonder if Ginny's newfound confidence could be a result of magical influence. It's also worth noting that Ginny's behavior seems to have a specific target, Harry. She becomes more outgoing and flirtatious in his presence, which some believe is a clear indication that she is trying to manipulate him into falling for her. The use of a love potion to explain Harry's feelings for Ginny also ties into the larger theme of manipulation and control that runs throughout the series. Throughout the books, there are several instances where characters use magic to control or influence others. For example, in The Goblet of Fire, Barty Crouch Jr. uses the Imperious Curse to control other wizards. And in The Order of the Phoenix, Dolores Umbridge uses her authority to manipulate and control students at Hogwarts. Love potions, while less dangerous than curses, can still be used to manipulate the emotions of others, which makes them a plausible tool for someone like Ginny, who is desperate for Harry's affections. Another important aspect of the theory is Ginny's apparent knowledge of magical substances and potions. Throughout the series, Ginny is shown to be a competent witch, particularly in her skill at charms and hexes. Her proficiency in magic is often understated in the books, but it's clear that she is highly capable. This knowledge, combined with her strong feelings for Harry, makes it plausible that Ginny could have used a love potion to influence his feelings. After all, the Weasley family is known for being resourceful, and Ginny is no exception. In a world where magic is used for everything from fighting dark forces to creating simple household spells, it's not unreasonable to think that Ginny could have resorted to using a love potion to win Harry's heart. As for Harry's behavior in The Half-Blood Prince, fans who support the love potion theory point to his emotional inconsistency. Throughout the book, Harry is shown to be conflicted about his feelings for Ginny, but his reactions seem out of sync with his usual demeanor. For example, when Harry first notices Ginny as a potential romantic partner, his feelings are described as being almost too intense for someone who had previously been oblivious to her charms. This sudden emotional surge is unlike Harry, who is usually more introspective about his feelings. Fans believe that this discrepancy can be explained by the influence of a love potion, which slowly alters Harry's emotions over time. One key moment in the series that fuels this theory is when Ginny kisses Harry in the Gryffindor common room in The Half-Blood Prince. The scene is tender and romantic, but it's also rather sudden and intense. Harry, who had been deeply conflicted about his feelings for Ginny, suddenly finds himself overcome with emotion. For fans who believe in the love potion theory, this moment is seen as a clear indication that Harry's feelings were not entirely his own. The intensity of his emotions, combined with his sudden shift in behavior, suggests that something more than natural attraction was at play. In addition, there is the matter of Harry's lack of emotional maturity when it comes to relationships. Throughout the series, Harry is shown to be relatively naive and inexperienced when it comes to matters of the heart. His relationship with Ginny is no exception. His sudden, intense feelings for her in The Half-Blood Prince could be seen as a result of his immaturity, making him more susceptible to the influence of a love potion. If Ginny had indeed used magic to manipulate his emotions, it would explain Harry's otherwise inexplicable shift in affections. The idea that Ginny used a love potion to win Harry's heart also fits within the context of the larger magical world. The use of potions to influence people, their emotions, is not uncommon, as seen in the use of Amortentia, the most powerful love potion in The Half-Blood Prince. The fact that such potions exist in the wizarding world makes it easier for fans to believe that Ginny could have used a more subtle, less potent version of the potion to influence Harry's feelings. While Amortentia creates an intense, almost overpowering attraction, a weaker potion could have been used to gradually build Harry's feelings for Ginny, making it seem like a natural progression in their relationship. Ultimately, the theory that Ginny used a love potion to manipulate Harry's emotions is an intriguing one, filled with dark magic and manipulative tactics. While it may never be confirmed or disproven, it raises interesting questions about the ethics of using magic to control someone's feelings. The use of a love potion, if it were indeed part of Ginny's strategy, would show the lengths to which she was willing to go to win Harry, his love, even if it meant bending the rules of magical morality. Whether or not this theory is true, it adds a layer of complexity to the relationship between Harry and Ginny, and serves as a reminder that not everything in the wizarding world is as innocent as it first appears. Number 27, Albus Severus Potter will become the next Dark Lord. Albus Severus Potter, the youngest child of Harry Potter and Ginny Weasley, bears a name laden with significance, drawing the attention of many fans who believe he might one day follow a darker path than his father ever could have imagined. The very combination of the names Albus and Severus strikes an eerie chord in the hearts of those who are inclined to theorize that the boy might become the next Dark Lord, though in a different, more nuanced form. Albus Dumbledore and Severus Snape, the two individuals who shaped much of Harry's destiny, were not only pivotal figures in the battle between good and evil, but they also walked the fine line between the two forces. Their lives were full of difficult choices, complex motives, and dark secrets. It is this duality that gives rise to the theory that Albus Severus Potter could one day rise to power and become the most unexpected figure of darkness the wizarding world has ever seen. The first piece of evidence that supports this fan theory lies in the very name that Harry Potter gives to his son. Albus and Severus were not names chosen lightly. These were names that represented two distinct figures who had wrestled with their own personal darkness throughout their lives. Albus Dumbledore, for instance, was a man of immense wisdom and power, but his life was not free from moral conflict. As a young man, Dumbledore was seduced by ambition, pursuing power alongside Gellert Grindelwald, a man who would eventually become a dark wizard bent on dominating the world. This history of youthful rebellion and the subsequent remorse that Dumbledore carried with him throughout his life shows that even the most revered figures in the wizarding world have a past that is not entirely free of shadows. Severus Snape, on the other hand, is the most obvious connection to darkness. A former Death Eater who initially served Lord Voldemort, Snape, his life was one filled with bitterness, resentment, and a deep desire for redemption. Despite his allegiance to Voldemort, Snape's final years were spent working secretly for the Order of the Phoenix, ultimately sacrificing himself for Harry Potter. Complexities of Snape as character are what make him such a tragic figure. He was a man who could easily have become a villain, yet his ability to act with love, courage, and sacrifice changed the course of history. For those who see Albus Severus Potter's name as prophetic, it symbolizes the delicate balance between light and dark, a reminder that even the most well-intentioned people can struggle with their inner demons. Another factor that bolsters this theory is Harry's own words about his son's name. When Harry explains to Albus Severus that he is named after two great wizards, he speaks of both Albus Dumbledore and Severus Snape in a manner that is filled with respect. Harry does not simply say that Snape was a brave man, as most people would expect, but rather he declares that Snape was possibly the bravest man he ever knew. The significance of this statement cannot be overstated. Harry's relationship with Severus Snape was fraught with bitterness and mistrust, yet in the end, Harry came to realize the complexity of Snape as character. Snape's bravery was not born from grand gestures, but from his quiet, consistent commitment to doing what was right, even when it was not popular or understood by others. This, to Harry, was the true measure of bravery. The fact that Harry attributes such high praise to Snape, a man who had once been an enemy, suggests that he believes in the power of transformation. In this sense, the theory that Albus Severus could one day follow Snape's darker path seems not only possible, but perhaps even likely. Harry's respect for Snape was not built on the surface-level understanding of bravery, but rather on the recognition that people can be both good and bad, light and dark. Albus Severus Potter's future, therefore, might be just as complex as that of the man who shares his name. Furthermore, there is an interesting parallel between Albus Severus Potter and Tom Riddle, the young man who would become Lord Voldemort. Much like Riddle, Albus Severus is the child of a well-known wizarding family. He carries the weight of his father's legacy, a legacy that is one of heroism and sacrifice. But unlike his siblings, Albus Severus has always struggled with the expectations placed upon him. As a young boy, he is aware of the fact that his father is one of the most famous and revered wizards in history. Yet, Albus feels as if he does not fit into the mold of a hero. The pressure to live up to his father's name is a constant burden, and it is this very pressure that might drive him toward a different path. Riddle, too, was once a boy burdened by the weight of his heritage, feeling disconnected from the world around him. His bitterness and isolation eventually led him down the path to becoming the Dark Lord. Albus Severus, in contrast, is a boy who feels disconnected from his family legacy in a way that could eventually fuel his desire to build his own power, just as Voldemort did before him. The theory that Albus Severus Potter could one day become the next Dark Lord is also supported by his connections to the Slytherin house. In the epilogue of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, when Harry is sending his own children off to Hogwarts, Albus Severus is reluctantly sorted into Slytherin. This moment is significant for several reasons. Firstly, it represents a departure from the expectations placed upon him. Harry, being a Gryffindor, has always associated Slytherin with dark forces, and he is understandably concerned when Albus is placed in that house. However, what Harry does not fully understand is that Slytherin is not inherently evil, it is simply the house that values ambition, cunning, and resourcefulness. These are qualities that Albus Severus might one day come to embrace in a way that aligns more with the dark, wizarding world